On Tuesday morning, we are starting with the annual Introduction to OHDSI. This is called the Introduction to the Journey from Data to Evidence using OHDSI. This talk is going to be led by Erica. Erica, I'll kind of move your slides for you.
That's great. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the introduction. And it is, like Craig said, it is the day before the plenary, and I actually think that's a great time for us to have the introduction. So this is designed for newcomers for OHDSI, and we're going to go through OHDSI tools, practices, and our open science approach to generating evidence. So like I said, this is really designed for newcomers, but I would also say if you haven't been to a symposium before and you're a little rusty on the concepts, this would be a great kind of intro before the plenary talk. And then also, if you really haven't been an active member in the community, this also, I think, will help before Wednesday's discussion. We go to the next slide. So if you're interested in what you're going to hear during this talk, we'll start the day off talking about open community data standards. So primarily, what is the OMOP Common Data Model and what are the OHDSI standardized vocabularies? We'll then switch over to talking about open source analytic tools. We'll talk about our methods library, the Hades, and we'll also talk about Atlas. Then go on to conducting network research. So we'll talk about the three main ways that we think about generating evidence, and that's characterization, population level estimation, and patient level prediction. After we've gone through that, that's really kind of the main tenets of the standardization that we use and apply to observational data. We'll then go through, if we take that standardization, how can we apply and generate evidence and address clinical questions? We'll end the day talking a little bit about, now that you've learned about all these things, how do you get involved? How do you become a member of the community? We could go to the next slide. So if we have a wonderful faculty who have a lot of experience, and I'm just going to briefly talk through, and hopefully that will also entice some people to join. The first person I'll highlight is Danny Pereiro Alhambra. He is in Health Data Sciences at Botnar Research Center. He's also a professor of Oxford University, as well as Erasmus MC. And I would say Danny's played a pivotal role within OHDSI in helping us think through how to design, conduct, and interpret clinical research on federated data. And so during the talk, Danny is going to focus on that clinical application section and walk us through that. Jenna, she is currently a director at Johnson & Johnson, but she's also an assistant professor at Erasmus MC. And she has been a leader in developing novel solutions and personalized risk prediction in the OHDSI community. She's definitely played a pivotal role in patient level prediction within the community, as well as various open source development. So she's going to lead the open source analytics tools section. Mui, she currently works at IQVIA, but she's been a core member within the OHDSI community, definitely focused on our standardization of data. So Mui can talk for days about ETLs and the different ways that that looks for different organizations. Mui's also been pivotal within OHDSI because she's helped start and leads the Asia Pacific chapter of OHDSI. And so she'll talk during the day about the data standardization and what that looks like. Linyan Zhang is an assistant professor of biostatistics at Washington University, and her journey started about 6 years ago when she was getting her PhD at Columbia University. She is an expert at causal inference and will actually talk about the methodological research. And then finally, myself, I'm Erica Voss. I also work at Johnson & Johnson, and I spent the early part of my career thinking a lot about extract, transform, and load, so converting to the OMOP Common Data Model. But now I spend a lot of my time thinking about, once you have standardized data, how do you actually implement clinical questions? So the main reason I went through all of that is you have a faculty at your disposal who has a lot of experience doing the things that we're going to talk about. And so not only are we preparing content for you, but you'll be able to talk to us about what's going on. So I'll just end, if you can go to the final slide. Is any knowledge necessary to come to this tutorial? No, no previous knowledge is necessary. The only thing that we will ask is for you to read one publication, and this publication will help you not only on the day of the tutorial, but it probably will also help you the day of the OHDSI Symposium. Thank you, and I hope to see more people join.
Great. Thank you, Erica. So as the tutorial day goes, this one is a standalone tutorial. So really, we set this one up so that you don't have to choose among the next 4 and miss this one. This is going to be Tuesday morning. An absolute incredible faculty. You got 4 Titan Award winners there, and then Lin Ying, who is just won a major honor at the for the upcoming AMIA Symposium, and you just heard she got the Washington U into the OHDSI Evidence Network. So really, the expertise in this tutorial is really spectacular, and will be a great opportunity for, as Erica said, certainly newcomers, but even those who are kind of maybe a little bit more knowledge in one area, not as much in others, and really wants to get a general sense of all of the aspects of the OHDSI community. Really, this is a great opportunity for you, and you will not miss any of the other tutorials that we're going to hear about moving forward. So after a lunch session, we will start with 4 more focused tutorials, starting with this ETL evaluating your extract, transform, load ETL process to the OMOP CDM, and Claire Blackader is going to talk to us about this one.
Thank you. Yeah, so I realized I didn't put the date and time on my slide after I saw Erica's first slide come up. I was like, oh my goodness. So it is October 22nd from 1 to 5 p.m. right after Erica's tutorial she was just sharing. So this is the ETL tutorial as we fondly refer to it. I wanted to start with our faculty because I'm very excited. We've got Evanette Burrows from Johnson & Johnson, and you might have seen her. Now she's with us here at J&J, but she, in her prior life, worked at PedsNet as one of the network coordinators, and she is highly experienced in ETL from her time at PedsNet and now at J&J. And honestly, I rely on her for a lot of things, so I'm really excited to welcome her into the ETL tutorial. We also have Katie Sadowski from Behringer Ingelheim. She is currently leading the data quality dashboard application. So she is definitely an expert in data quality. And I know many people, some of their first interactions with the tool stack Erica was sharing, they start with the DQD, or data quality dashboard. So having her there to help us understand how to evaluate our data sources for quality will be really exciting. We've also got Melanie Flosky, who is at Odysseus. And, she and myself led the April Olympians challenge, community event, whatever you want to call it, earlier this year. But she is a fantastic resource. She is an expert on OMOP CDM conventions. And I think one of the best resources we have on the forums, when anybody has an ETL question, I can always rely on Melanie to answer. She is such a wealth of knowledge in that area. And then you also have myself. I run the CDM working group and now working on the OHDSI Evidence Network initiative. But I do love ETL. It's one of my first passions that really got me excited about OHDSI. All right, next slide. All right, so just thinking about who would benefit, and this really ties in nicely with what we've been talking about with the OHDSI Evidence Network. Maybe you have data and you want to get started on the journey, but you're not really sure how. This is a great tutorial for you because we're going to talk you through what those steps are to transform your data to the OMOP CDM. And even if you've taken this course before, but maybe you have some questions or you've hit some stumbling blocks, we've made a lot of changes over the years that I'm really excited to share with the community. And really the hope is, if you have data and you're starting on your journey, or you want to make, you want to improve your data quality processes, or you want to improve your ETL, hopefully that also means you'd be willing and interested in joining the OHDSI Evidence Network as well. And this will just get you even closer to that goal. We're going to have a hands-on tutorial. We're going to be mapping some synthetic data to the OMOP CDM, and we're going to be focusing on, vocabulary, data standards, conventions, and tools that are available to help you. One of the things I'm really excited about this year is that we have our new Themis convention library that we built in April through that Olympians initiative. So I'm really excited to bring that into the fold and really give a nice in-depth discussion around how to use that wonderful resource on your ETL journey. And I really think it's going to take away a lot of that guesswork from some of those questions many of us have around, what do I do with this type of data or that type of data? So I'm really excited to share that. And what you need to know beforehand is really just a basic knowledge of the CDM and vocabularies. We're going to do a quick refresher, but it's not going to be the focus of this tutorial. But there is a great Eden Academy course and a couple chapters in the Book of OHDSI that can give you a refresher if you just want to come prepared. But that's about it, and I hope you'll join us. We're really excited, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Great, thank you, Claire. So as Claire mentioned, this tutorial is 1 to 5 p.m. All of the rest of the tutorials that are going to be discussed right here are 1 to 5 p.m. on Tuesday. So next up is I messed up the title there a little bit, but it's our standardized vocabulary tutorial, and Anna is going to talk about this one.
So the tutorial is called Using the OHDSI Standardized Vocabularies for Research. And you might have seen quite a few tutorials that we've given over the previous years, and those really focused on the using vocabularies for ETL. Some of them spanned, I think 7 hours on the when you look on the YouTube. These were really, really great tutorials, but this tutorial will not focus on the ETL. Instead, it will focus on the use of vocabularies for research. So therefore, really the people who would benefit most from it are, of course, the researchers, the analysts, and pretty much anybody who wants to use vocabularies for research or learn how to do that, maybe to support their researchers. And that brings us to the what exactly we will be talking about. And in a nutshell, OHDSI Vocabularies is a great resource that can help us to really drive our research, starting from the very basics of how you define your patients of interest. And a large portion of this tutorial will be focused on helping you define your exposures of interest, outcomes of interest, maybe variables of stratification. And in that tutorial, we'll talk in depth about how to use hierarchies in the vocabularies, how to leverage the mappings that we created between the vocabularies, and also how to leverage internal relationships. And some of the examples of the questions that you will be able to answer after that workshop is, for example, how to create a nice concept set for chronic kidney disease to capture the patients you're interested in, or maybe how to find all antibiotics in the vocabularies, how to create code sets that will capture all of the patients that are taking systemic drugs with dexamethasone, or how to simply find all glucose measurements. And these questions were formulated as easy questions on purpose because they do sound easy, yet everybody struggles with them, and we do get questions about it on the forums, in the chats, on the meetings all the time. And a lot of our work is focused on trying to get this right. So if you do research, that would be a really helpful tutorial for you to really leverage the vocabularies and help you make use of them. And if we talk about the faculty, we have, of course, absolutely amazing faculty, myself included, also as a Shoaib, and you know all of these faces, I'm sure, already, but if I were to briefly describe them and their expertise, as works in Janssen, and she is very proficient with the phenotyping. So we will use her expertise to really help us motivate the exercises we will do in the workshop and make it really connected to the work with the phenotyping and to advances that she makes every day. Polina, Oleg, and Vlad have been ontology experts for 8 years now, and most of the people, if not all, of course, in this faculty have PhDs, and 4 of them have MDs. And Polina, Oleg, and Vlad have been working with ontologists inside OHDSI, but also outside of OHDSI for many, many years. And we will have this workshop on the Tuesday afternoon, and this faculty really is best suited for you to fully leverage the vocabularies and help your research in the best way possible. And this is where I will stop sharing.
Great, Anna, thank you so much. Let me pull back up our slides. Next up, a lot of people, there's always talk about how to run an OHDSI network study. So we have a great team that is going to put together a session on how to run an OHDSI network study. And Andrew is going to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, this is for anybody who wants to understand how to lead or contribute to a network study. It's complementary to some of the other tutorials that are being given this year and that are, in the legacy set of wonderful tutorials that the community has produced that go into more depth on what the overall ecosystem is like or what the style of research is, or into the specifics of tools or data preparation or other specifics. This is really focused on all of the steps in proposing a study, defining it, conducting it, disseminating the results. We think there's maybe a little bit of a gap there on how all of the wonderful pieces of the OHDSI community's technical and social infrastructure get put together in a specific use case. And so it's going to be walking through that. And this is not an area where there's 100% consensus on exactly how all of that gets done. So we're going to be doing a walkthrough of stuff and identifying where there is a good consensus and where there are opportunities to clarify or develop new best practices. We're going to cover things very practically, like how much time and effort does it typically take to go from start to finish? What kinds of complementary skill sets are needed to actually do the work of the whole thing, proposing and conducting a study? What tools and resources are available? And so a lot of the activities that are typically involved are going to be covered. So beginning with some stuff that is a little redundant with what's already been said today, but what kinds of research can you do to begin with? And how do you assess the suitability of the data for real world evidence generation? How do you maximize the impact of the evidence, right? We don't want to just do this as a sort of a series of demos. We want to improve health in population. So how do you make sure you're maximizing that? Who can lead a study? Are there rules around that? What kind of things does a leader of a study typically do? What kinds of broader expertise are needed to complement what the leader is doing? And what tools do people in those different roles use? How do you announce? How do you get in touch with Craig Saxon to announce and generate enthusiasm for a study? And how do you recruit the kind of complementary experts that you need? How do you empower the people who have different roles and responsibilities to do their work and perhaps manage them effectively during the course of the study? Walk through the packages and so on. So there's, in short, very practical, like with a specific use case in mind, walking through all of that. And we clearly have the best faculty. I think everybody looking at it would say that we do. It even includes other people not listed here. Paul Nagy was added to the faculty. So Young Chen, everybody's so famous, really. We probably will have some guards and like a velvet rope outside trying to keep the crowds at bay. So people trying to storm in will be, handled appropriately, but there will be respect as that's done. So Young Chen is at UPenn, is helping to lead some of the really exciting, innovative work on how to synthesize all the data that gets contributed in and the methods advancing how we do that in a variety of ways. Just outstanding work. Nicole has done so many things. It's hard to say. Actually, several people do. Like trying to list the kinds of things that Chan has done in the community is impossible. Like even trying to find the things that he hasn't done or hasn't contributed to is almost impossible. Senna is, as we know, the leading light on all of the wonderful things that get packed into Atlas and Web API and the main tooling that's helping to define and conduct studies and how that's being built out in study pipelines. And I'm a bit of a weak link. Paul, as I say, is not listed here, but working with Claire, obviously, on the evidence network, and the connections of this to the uses of the evidence network are going to be part of what gets covered there as well. So that's the gist of it, what we're going to be doing and who's going to be doing it. It's going to be happening on that same Tuesday. And I think that's it.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. We have not announced the time of the faculty rumble that Andrew has just brought up, but we will.
Octagon.
We'll try to have those details before that Tuesday. Thank you, Andrew. Yep. Our final one is going to be conducting off-the-shelf characterization studies using Darwin EU tools and the OMOP CDM. This team is either on holiday right now or at another conference. So Patrick is going to kind of just fill in for this tutorial and then move us into Wednesday.
Great, thank you, Craig. Yeah, so I'm speaking on behalf of Danny Prieto Alhambra, Marty Kettle, Ed Byrne, Martin, and Gare. And they are part of the core team as part of the Darwin EU initiative. As I think most of you probably know, Darwin EU is a pretty substantial undertaking in the European area. It's a project coordinated by the European Medicines Agency, and it's effectively to establish an international collaboration to allow for real-world data to support regulatory needs at the EMA. And one of the things that's exciting about the Darwin EU project is that they have adopted the OMOP Common Data Model and are using OHDSI tools, and are also developed a suite of open source software tools as part of the Darwin EU projects that not only have proven to be valuable for the EMA, but have been made as publicly available open source resources for the broader community. And we will be having the faculty and developers of those packages be able to showcase this work at the OHDSI Global Symposium. While the team has developed a large collection of tools as part of the Darwin EU efforts, one particular area that the team has put a lot of effort into is to establish standardized reporting for drug utilization studies. And there's frequently quite a lot of interest in just understanding the basics of who are exposed to a product, what does exposure look like, what is the duration of exposure, how does exposure change over time, what types of other utilization markers help us understand drug exposure data. And in particular, in a project like Darwin EU, it's critically important to be able to think about how to look across a network to understand the heterogeneity that could exist across populations. And so the Darwin EU team has done a great job of developing open source tools. And one of the commission studies that the EMA requests of the Darwin EU Coordinating Center at Erasmus MC is what they call off-the-shelf studies, which basically means, much like in the vision of how we do OHDSI studies, there can be a request for an analysis. And as long as that request is made in a standardized way, there can be defined inputs to an open source standardized analytic tool to produce defined outputs. And so one of these off-the-shelf characterization studies is indeed the drug utilization study that the EMA has commissioned the Darwin EU Coordinating Center to run multiple times. You can see examples of these studies out on the Darwin EU website. All of their studies and protocols are registered on NCEP, and the information is available. But at this tutorial, there will be hands-on exercises to be able to learn from the Darwin EU development team to see how these packages have been developed, how you can use them to produce standardized analysis that are consistent with how the Darwin EU team is delivering evidence for the EMA. So I think this is a really great, this would be a great course for really anybody who's just interested in seeing how regulatory science at scale is being delivered through open source tools. Anybody who's interested in these tools to be able to apply them yourselves, I think in particular, well, I think this tutorial will be like very interesting for everybody. I have heard quite a lot of interest from industry trying to understand exactly what is going on with the Darwin EU effort in the EMA and how is regulatory science being done. So I encourage those in industry who want to get a firsthand look and hands-on experience to participate in this tutorial to register and sign up. I think it's going to be a great course, and I want to thank Danny and the entire Darwin EU development team for taking on the opportunity to create this tutorial and make this resource available for us as a broader community.